And it sucks.
I tried to watch the live feed for the cross country meet on the way driving down to work tonight.
Which is.
Getting up first, I think I was first, so I can see on the.
Yeah.
Are you? Doing it live
Yeah.
or phone.
This is where Betty's
This is what I was saying, that.
Getting agenda. Sometimes there are so many kids here. But this is freshman.
If you want to hear it. Let's start.
Very structured and.
Just
Grab. Yes, we don't know what's coming to see.
Call the meeting to order and we'll welcome everybody for coming and join us in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approve agenda. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Public hearing on the proposed plans and specifications, form of contract and estimate of cost for the proposed 2019-20 asphalt paving project. Motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Scott,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes.
Jack.
Yes.
Darren.
Yes. Any comments from the public?
I'll just make the comment that bids were received October 1st or October 21st at 1 p.m. One bid was received from Norris Asphalt Paving Company. Their bid was for $959,970.35. And the engineer's OPC on the project going into the bid was $879,000. So that's roughly about $80,000 more than the engineer's opinion of probable cost on where the bid would have came in at. That's where we're sitting at. The city council tonight will have the option later on to perform two options of either award the project as bid, or you guys can reject bids and explore options to either rebid it at a later time or try and phase out the project, or maybe we can, a third option is to work through possibly, I know Steve Leonard's here, work through with maybe there's some ways we can value engineer it, or he's come up with some ideas that they can perform to lessen the contract, and we can perform a change order.
Was there any portions of it significant? It's quite a bit different than what the estimated cost was as far as.
The number that really kind of stood out and got us was the tonnage of asphalt. We estimated it at about $115 a ton. It ended up coming in at $122 per ton, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have 4,600 tons out there on the project, that little $10 difference adds up about $40,000 on the project.
Anybody else got any comments?
I'm Steve Leonard with North Asphalt. Discussing some of the project with Larry today. One thing that we put into the project that not 100% where he was on it, but there's $50,000 of lineal saw cut on this project due to the design of it. And that may have been something that wasn't figured in as tightly as it is. I mean, there's 16,000 lineal feet. That adds up for full depth concrete saw cutting. So that's something I brought up that might be a proposal to redesign something that could eliminate that. Also brought up the fact that new manhole castings were designed in there. Not always that common in an overlay project, more new construction is that. And with 23 of those, that's going to add up in cost pretty quickly itself. So just a couple of things we briefly brought up in preliminary discussion.
The linear saw cuts is to save the existing curve.
It was to save the existing curve when you're doing the process of the crack in seat, yeah, to break that delamination in that process, correct?
Isn't there some of that curve getting replaced?
No.
Yes,
400.
there's
400 out of the.
an allotment for 400 feet in various spots throughout the project to replace and repair that existing curb and gutter in the bad sections.
Any other comments? Do you have any, receive any written comments?
No, I haven't.
Motion to close the public hearing. So moved. Second.
Earl,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes. Adopt a resolution approving plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the proposed 2019 asphalt paving project. Guess what, have you got any?
So this is just this item is just approving the plans as they're bid, which would be a formality based on how you would proceed. You're gonna proceed with the next one, the resolution and the award of the bid. You would want to approve the plans and these construction documents prior to the.
Like they mentioned, the manhole covers, is that something that?
We could probably work, Larry, and Steve could work together and do a change order on the project. You could probably accept, we'll have to ask Steve, if you'd be willing to work with whether you would accept a change order after acceptance of the bid to get the cost down to an amount.
Just a contract formality.
Yeah, get a contract formality, get it down to some amount, if there's an amount in the city's mind that they want, or if there's an amount that Steve's thinking he can work through and get it down. The best option might be then to table these plans and send Steve to work with Larry and I over the next week and come back the following week with the new proposal and a change order that would happen after awarding the bid. Because that would be kind of the formality process and the easiest way to do it.
I just want to make sure we don't approve something and then before we got.
Yeah, otherwise we've got to come up, figure out where we're gonna find $80,000. And so,
And I suppose you could probably look at the saw cut and proceed, I mean, see if we can look at that and see if there's anything there, maybe we can.
if we can look at anything and everything and work with Steve and Larry and get you guys something for, now, next week would be a little tight to get you something probably by that Tuesday that I know you guys would like to have time to review them, but we'll
Well, I don't,
try and get it as fast
Next
as
week
possible.
is-
we don't actually have
November
another
7th.
meeting till November.
Okay, till November 7th.
Oh, November 7th. That gives
Got
you-
it. We're gonna take
Okay,
a
so
week
that-
off.
Well, and I don't know what your guys' expectation is, but I don't think, there's nobody on, that I think there would be possible subcontractors or whatever, that nothing's gonna be happening till spring or very, March.
Yeah, that was my other question. I mean, is there anything gonna happen this fall if we do it?
No.
I mean,
If
it's,
we're awarded the contract, I can't see that anything would go on this fall. I mean, there's so little of the contract that, would be applicable to start now and wait until, next spring for the balance of it anyway.
it wouldn't be worth mobilization for a couple weeks.
Yeah, set up traffic control for a little bit and tear it down and have to redo it all again.
There's some preliminary concrete work and intakes you might want to do yet this fall. So that's one thing to push, but
Well, I'd say we just table it till November 7th
With the direction of.
with the direction of you guys working together to try to see where we can cut some cost and I guess if there's some minor things that could be done, I mean, in 2 more weeks, we're running out any time to get anything done probably this fall. I say we just get everything in order so we're ready to go first thing in the spring.
Okay.
Asphalt guys aren't quite as tough as culvert brakemen.
Does
Mother Nature controls us all.
that work okay for you guys?
Yep,
Sounds
that
good.
works okay.
Decision on quotes for replacing intake at Jefferson Street, Highway 63.
so there you have 2 quotes from the Drish we talked about last week. So one was 37,000, the other one was 24,000. Basically, the difference there being the traffic control. And I just talked to Evan there again, talking about the traffic control. Their OPC, their engineers cost before is about 16,000. So this is 8,000 over that, and against the traffic control portion, which is the higher part. Ron said, once you get this done up here on Jefferson, he could probably get this in, have it done in 10 days. So he's looking at going, so once he starts work, he can do it 10 days.
They both say they include traffic control. Why is 156 and one's 13.7?
So the way Drish proposed, traffic control on the lower bid is a 1-lane, single lane closure. The issue with the current intersection is there's actually 4-inch wide crosswalk markings running across the whole intersection. So for the short time that they would have to sandblast and remove the existing pavement markings and put down new pavement markings. The existing crosswalk is in improper alignment with ADA standards, which as we are repairing and removing concrete above this intake, we now have to correct that ramp and caused a realignment of the crosswalk, which then causes us to move the striping for the crosswalk. And at a minimum, when they move this crossing, they'll want to remove the crosswalk striping, and hopefully at a future date, they can replace it. Or you guys would replace it, or maybe you guys so the $24,000 bid, it does not have Drish doing any pavement marking or pavement striping or adjusting it. It's just removal and replacement of the box intake and the concrete work for the sidewalks around it. So you guys would still have to deal with that pavement marking and striping and traffic control for that setup, which that pavement marking and traffic control is a very small amount of markings for any project. It's probably that cost of that marking is just in getting the materials down here and then cleaning it.
A third of the project, it must be pretty big.
Or they don't like doing it.
Well, yeah, they don't wanna do it. Can you get anybody else to do it cheaper?
Danny was filling me in on,
Baird can paint it, I mean, he can paint those lines, so that'd be cheaper than the 37 for sure, so.
So would you recommend doing the 24 and then having Baird do the painting?
That's my recommendation.
Yeah, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept, Drish's bid for $24,061 for the intake at Jefferson Highway 63 intersection.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discuss updating ATV ordinance. We talked about this a lot.
Several times.
I went into the recorder's office the other day and she mentioned it to me also. She gets a lot of complaints in her office for the same reason. So basically what I guess was wanting from the council is their blessing to let Sean and Zach and meet with the recorder and go through our existing ordinance and come up with a plan and make some changes to the ordinance and bring it back to us with said changes. And does anybody on the council want to be included or on that committee? That
You want Andy on there?
Andy could probably be involved. Does anybody else on the council wanna, got any input or? I've had a
I want to
few,
see the proposed changes.
I've had a few ideas I've talked to the chief about, so.
So do we need to treat ATVs and UTVs different?
The wording needs to include all the abbreviations for all the different. There's ATVs, UTVs, there's, I don't know, there's 6 or 8 different abbreviations for everything that, there is.
And once we get, have something new.
Yeah. You got anything else on that, Sean?
No, I don't. I think we can probably, like we talked about, we have some options like registering them at the city, and have something at the city, so maybe be like similar to dog tags, every year somebody has to register, and that way we can kind of keep track. They have a flag or whatever, maybe to be able to put on their ATVs or UTVs.
Mayor,
That's just an idea. I mean, I'm sure there's.
Mayor, just one comment on that, and that is we're doing, Councilman Moore called me about this as well. I've reached out to some other cities and get examples of them. From them, so far, I've not received what I did on the listserv. I'm going to zero in on probably 10 cities or so and see what I can come up with, and we'll bring that to the table whenever it happens to meet.
All right, that sounds like a plan.
You want Andy to coordinate that and get a meeting set and him be the kind of the lead on that?
Well,
Or you want the chief to be the lead?
Well, I think probably the chief and Zach with Megan, because they're probably gonna be the harder 3 to get together.
Okay,
And then, because they the hours are kind of weird between everybody there, so.
Okay.
That work, chief?
Yeah, we'll keep Andy, we'll keep him apprised and with the meetings and stuff and let him know.
Yeah, let me know when you're having to, I'll be available online.
Chief, can you, when you're doing the updates, can you maybe make a separate sheet, say this is what we're adding, this is what we're removing, instead of just throwing it all in one, so we don't overlook something?
It might be a word process where they can add the changes in red.
Or something,
Okay.
just so we know.
Somebody should be able to help them do that.
All right, discuss and make decision on housing inspections.
Mr. Mayor, as I indicated to you in a conversation that I've had corresponding with Chris Bowers at Area 15 Regional Planning in Atumwa. He and I tried to set up a conference call today, and our schedules didn't mesh very well. He does want to visit with us in a little bit, and I want to see what his ideas and suggestions are, so we can move on this. I would also say, Brenda Johnson, our finance director, she also had a contact which may be worth pursuing.
Yes, I took some initiative this afternoon and I thought, gosh, we need one inspection right now. Made a call that cultivated another source that I could reach out to. And before we left the office, I had an email response from my contact, and Andy didn't have a chance to see it before he left the office, but I am optimistic that my route could turn out for us as well.
There's just one item on this. I'm assuming then, is this the way these inspections would work then, as it is with multi code enforcement items then? Who pays for the services of the people that come and then do that inspection? Does that fall back to the I guess, owners? I mean, who capitalizes that expense? I mean, they're not going to do it for free. I don't have anything in my notes that indicates who that expense would go to.
I didn't see anything in the application that addressed that either, but
And that's something the
that is,
council
I mean,
consider.
they're not going to do it for gratis.
Right. That's something we need to.
I suppose we just have to see how much it is, and, I mean, I think the numbers that we talked earlier about what it might cost or could cost, I think we was maybe gonna keep that cost if it was,
Okay, and we did that, and the
if
council.
it wasn't too bad, but,
Okay,
um,
we'll try and get those gathered as costs.
discuss long-term plan for fleet management. I know we've got a computer program that's supposed to be tracking repairs and maintenance and all that on vehicles, and I know we've got a management plan in place for the fire station as far as trucks and whatnot. And I think we need to have one, we need to put one together for our fleet of vehicles, because, if we got so much set aside each year for that, we gotta figure out how we're gonna space out buying vehicles and, what ones are in it, what ones need to be replaced. I didn't know if anybody had any input on that, or I know we've talked about a fleet management plan, we just never got one put together. I didn't know if that was something we wanted to have somebody start working on, so we can figure out what we need and how to go about it.
Mayor, it's something staff can certainly work on a template anyway. Centerville has a pretty decent one. I know the city will share over there. I'll give them a call. That's just one.
I was thinking Chris had something in at one time in some files, but I don't know where those are at.
Yeah, I don't have any idea where they would be either.
Be on the cloud somewhere, and then
Here we are on that cloud. Anything else on that? Public comments?
I got a question. Back up to housing inspection. I couldn't hear what you were saying very good a while ago. What are we inspecting?
We're inspecting the new homes that are being built to make them to make sure they're occupancy ready. With our housing incentive program, they have to meet certain criteria in order for people to be able to move in so that they can get awarded the money that we're doing for housing incentives.
That didn't have anything to do with old houses that need torn down.
Not yet. We got baby steps. We
Well,
gotta start somewhere. The old houses there's some houses that are, we've sent some letters out to some older houses that we need derelict homes and stuff that we need to get rid of. It's just a long, slow process. That answer your question?
partly. This old house across from the daycare that I've been on for years, what status is it?
Attorney, I think the attorney has that.
I think the attorney sent letters to them again, the second time.
Well, that's been done for years. They've been getting letters, but they ain't gonna do nothing. Not on that one anyway.
Who's they?
Well, there's a couple, I think I've talked to them before, and they just weren't impressed. They wanted to sell me the place for $40,000.
Be a good tax deduction.
Real good. I don't need it.
Well, we're working on getting rid of it. Any other public comments? Work session for discussion on Babe Ruth Field.
You want me to get started?
I suppose we just gotta start somewhere.
You guys. Well, it might be best for me to kind of unpack since I've talked to you guys last. Went to the county supervisors and they sent a letter of, support, I guess. Same deal, I talked to them, it was kind of they didn't make any decisions that day, it makes sense, but they gave me a letter of support to kind of give to you guys. So, I haven't talked to them in a couple of weeks, but, they were, again, they didn't make any decisions one way or the other, but they did have, they did give me support. I talked to Dan, obviously, he sent the letter on, just, the school's, willingness to work with the league and with the city and the county and everything, as far as things there, Sharon Field. And I also talked to the fair board. I went to the fair board and talked to them, and again, none of these meetings really, you don't get a ton accomplished when you go to one meeting, but, I did ask them if there would be any way to give us maybe an extra year or two. So there, again, I wish I had some great answers from all these people, but again, it's just kind of how boards work. It's kind of a slower process, but I think they're going to mull that over. I did hear from some board members, and I think there's some support there. Maybe give us a little extra time if we need it. And then maybe the last thing I have is I have talked to some business in town that has shared interest in helping the financing of the field. Maybe there's a naming rights or something like that available. So we do have a business in town that's going to, I think, put up, again, it's early. I literally just talked to them today, so he didn't give me a number, well, hey, I'll give you this or whatever like that. But there was a pretty strong interest to help out, I think. And I think that could be a positive going forward.
Is all this strictly based on the ball field being at the complex?
Well, yeah, again, that's just my opinion, and the board's, the board has given me kind of permission to go out and tell you guys in the county and the fair what their, what their thoughts or their wants are. And part of that is you have to have it out there at the West Sports Complex. That was kind of the thought behind the business that was looking to do this as well, as if they had interest in putting it out there as well. Again, I'm not telling you that it's a done deal if you don't put it there. I'm not going to say that, but there is support from them to put it there as well. So. And the one thing I do want to add is and I'll let Dan kind of talk through it too, but I mean, the idea of getting, people from, if we were just were to go forward, getting people from the city and the county and the league and the school all sort of together to write an agreement of sharing the field. And, again, the league has expressed its, its issues with the handling of the field in the past and what we would want going forward. The city would certainly be able to be a part of that. And, if that's something that we can get Rick or somebody involved with to help us, that might be a possibility too. So I think that's be a good way to go down.
The league's biggest problem right now with sharing the field with the high school is we're working very well together, I think, but we're hurrying through our season as well, so that we're not in their way. And, they're cutting their practice short sometime and getting out of our way because we're playing our games. And, if we had our own field, that wouldn't be an issue. We wouldn't be sharing that field. At that time, we would have some place to have, our games, and we could run a longer season. Because we were done, I think we were done over a month before All-Stars even came about. So I was the lucky one that took a bunch of rusty 13-year-olds and got the butts kicked by a tumble. So, but our older boys did really well this year, so that's all.
And I said the same thing to the fair board too. I mean, and they asked me the question about sharing the field with the high school and the high school field. It's just not, it's, we've done it. I mean, the league has done it, the schools work for the league work for the school, but, just like what Charlie was saying, it's, when it starts raining and you get rainouts and it's, you're looking at teams that have only practiced 2 or 3 times in a whole year. I mean, that's not good. It's just too many teams and too many players to share one field. I wish we could do it, but like Charlie was saying, you got to start that league in middle of April and get it done by basically the middle of May. And, work for the high school to really start cooking the season. They're playing, practicing every day. Second field is definitely needed. As far as the grant goes, again, that's due on first, so I'm looking at 6-7 days here, and that's what I was saying. There might be a potential if we can get a business in town to help us with this coming spring or summer, and maybe get some parts of that field done. But I mean, I don't know. I really don't want to write a grant and not know if I'll have it, their support from the city and the county. I need that. So I don't want to just go off the road and start writing grants, and then I get $30,000-$40,000, and the council wants to go a different direction, or the county wants to go a different direction, or so. If we don't, again, that was half the reason of going out to talk to the fair, to say, if there's a potential chance of us maybe getting an extra year on that field or something that might be needed. As of right now, it's kind of crunch time for that grant. And I wish I had a number from, the private, the company in town. I don't have a number. They would want to donate, but I think it would be significant enough to get things rolling. Get significant help. Yeah. It's one conversation today, but pretty promising.
Joe, when was you gonna get an answer from the county?
Well, I honestly don't know. Like the last I talked to Alan that day of that fair board meeting last week, and he didn't really have a great answer for me either. I mean, I wish I did, but
I mean, really, they're kind of in the same boat that you're all in, and just kind of trying to work through what seems right and work through everything, so I know it's just kind of a process, that's just kind of where they're at, but, you know, like I said, the best thing I could get was just their, letter of support, formal letter of support that we got for the project, so, I mean, they're in support of the project and in support of what I had to say to them, but, you know, they weren't just gonna cut me a check that day. And they did say too, that it was gonna, you know, what they would give would come out of that rural basic, which is just the county and taxpayers would pay for that. So you know, the city folks wouldn't be in money.
There are some other avenues that I would pursue as well, but until we have a, you know, a definitive, okay, we're gonna do it here, or we're gonna do it there, I mean, it's kind of pointless for me to, you know, pursue those other avenues. And I'm talking about help with, like, you know, perhaps getting one of the sponsors to donate a scoreboard, or, you know, every little bit helps when you're kind of starting from scratch, so.
I guess the last thing I'd probably say, and you guys can talk about it, but it feels like this is not just the best way from the leagues and the players to have those two fields back to back from practice, play, tournament perspective, but I mean, I think this is the cheapest way for this to happen as far as us getting private donation, grant work, maybe some help from the county, and you know, you're not paying for parking again, you're not paying for bathroom, you're not paying for concessions, and stuff that's just shared with the school. So you're really just putting up a field where if there's any other ideas of whether it be Fisher or wherever, you know, you're gonna need, that's just something to keep in mind as far as, that's gonna get needed to get built is, you know, concessions and parking and improvements that have to go along with it.
There's a couple of things I'd like to see, and I think probably Dan's the more appropriate or probably more knowledgeable person to talk on it, but I'd like to have an understanding of what kind of public use there'd be out there in general. And also the opportunity for tournaments, that whether it's at the high school level or at the Babe Ruth level, or, you know, things that will bring people in our community. And my overall question related to both those is whether we can make this a, not just ball fields, but more of a sports complex where we can get some of the facilities that we need to bring in the conference, regional, and state tournaments, and then also the, not just within the school, but whether it's USATF or Babe Ruth, trip, what, you know, and not just limited to the baseball stuff, but you know, what can we put out there, and sort of thinking a little, not just thinking about like, oh, the school's doing putting baseball fields out there, let's put a Babe Ruth field out there, but then, okay, maybe the next step of, and what can we put out there by way of complex that makes sense, and then what kind of revenue could that bring to the city, and then what kind of public access could we have out there?
Yeah, I think all of that is we can work through in agreement, and that's kind of the vision is to do exactly what you're saying, Matt, is to, originally was to try to bring more revenue into this, in the community. You know, as far, I think, did you all get a copy of my note that I wrote? Did you get a copy of that? You should have seen it. Okay, so, anyway, basically what I know, we're gonna need to work on, whatever details of an agreement, more than willing to do that. I think just the basic statement that I'll say is the school stands ready to partner with the city, the community, however that is, to help our community grow and flourish. It really is. And I think there's lots of possibilities out there. I'd love to see a track out there. Can we get some kind of whether it's cross country or a walking track or something like that, I think there's possibilities that we have out there as a community. We simply don't need all that ground. I mean, there's 50 acres worth of property out there. Part of it's already in the solar field. There's plenty of room for a Babe Ruth field, or that size of the field. We can see the Babe Ruth organization benefiting from that. I can see Little League benefiting from that. I can see Little League softball benefiting from that. And, you know, whether Babe Ruth has a tournament, needs to use the school's field at the same time, or if you have a city tournament of some sort, those are all things that we can work out in agreement. I have complete faith in that. We see it as a community venture, and the school's happy to figure out how to make it work. And I know there's details that need to be worked out. I just don't know. We just have to have that stuff out.
I think that's a little bit of our holding back, as we would like to see what some of that looks like before we make it.
Sure. Yeah. So I would say I'm willing to sit down with a few of you, or however you want to do it, whether it's somebody from Babe Ruth, somebody from the city, myself from the school, or in the county, whoever, that needs to sit down and work on this agreement together, talk about, we grab an attorney to help us write that thing up, and so we all feel good about it and deal with it, and come with, there might be some things we have to research on our own. You and I, Dan, had a question about, when we were talking earlier about that, and I think we need to research that. Those kinds of things, and we can get down the weeds, but.
Because I mean, from our standpoint, we're gonna put taxpayers' money into it, the taxpayers need to be able to use it.
Yeah.
And that's not just if they play Babe Ruth, that's not if they just play high school ball, that's if they have a family reunion, can they go out there and play ball?
I think that's definitely something we.
I mean, I think that's where we're coming from a city, and that's why it's hard for us to think that that's the best place maybe for it, is because of them types of activities that it's gonna get used for, other than just Babe Ruth or high school ball or tournaments.
No,
So I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff like that that needs to get brought up and talked through and see if it's gonna work under everybody's.
How's the track work? Because I know when I run by there, that seems like it's open for the
Yeah.
public.
We do, when we passed that bond issue, that was one of the things that we talked about, is before, the track was always open for folks, and there's a lot of folks who use that. And so, when we built that track, we built it with that capability that folks can come in, and it's a little button you hit, and it turns on those smaller sets of lights, so folks can go walk.
Okay.
And that's it, it's open for folks. We ask them to not take bikes and stuff like that on it, they might tear it up. And we ask them to walk on the outside ones, because you know, the track, that those inside things get worn out. And, but no, it's a great use of that, and we have quite a few folks, I think, that use it that way.
Is Babe Ruth a national organization?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I mean, I got a question, Mayor. Have we got hard numbers on how many Babe Ruth, how many sanctioned teams are in Iowa? I mean, the numbers, like you said, if we want to take our family out on a big reunion out there and play, okay, so it's built for Babe Ruth, like you guys have said, or what we're putting there, like, as a taxpayer, like you said, it can be multiple uses. And as Matt said, multiple traveling teams. We're talking about all this. It sounded like there's so many other entities that was specifically built for Babe Ruth that would be using it, which I would agree. Do we have numbers on this? I mean, do we on that, Joe?
The numbers on the Babe Ruth?
Yeah, and how many is even sanctioned in Iowa? How many teams are in Iowa where we could come to play? I mean, do we know that? And the second question is, like you said, on the foundation, I think the number you quoted was possibly 40 from the DC Foundation, right, roughly?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta, that's the hope. I mean, you can't count
So
on it.
what we usually see, I don't know, maybe Karen, you can help me on this. Usually you see about 90,000 to 100,000. Is that pretty close each year that they give away?
We normally give out about 100.
Okay, 100.
Yeah.
So,
98,
I mean, when you're
99,000, I
talking
think,
that
right?
large of amount, I mean, would that be a guaranteed on that? I mean.
Trails gets that. I mean, they come close to that. I mean,
not recently. There
I'm-
can't be a
I'm the
guarantee
treasurer,
on
not
it
recently.
because
No, no, I'm
sometimes
not guaranteeing
there's
anything.
four applications and sometimes there's 40.
Right.
So do you give everybody a piece of the pie or?
Not every year.
You know, if it's a one-time deal, yeah, they might do a bigger lump sum knowing that they're not gonna come back year after year. A lot of people apply year after year and some years they get, some years they don't, but.
I don't know, maybe Don has their idea of how much they got, but I mean,
Well,
it's been a pretty
I
significant
make a
amount.
statement, they always have requests for a lot more money than they can disperse.
Oh, yeah.
It's like 2.5 times as much. So I mean,
Actually,
Trails
last
competes
year,
with
they
Babe
ran-
Ruth,
it was
competes
actually
with 6 or 8 other organizations, regardless of how much you ask for, it's no guarantee you're gonna get it.
Last year might have been a bit of an anomaly, but last year, every group that asked for money got.
I mean,
I think they only had 3 or 4 of them.
I did multiple grants on that for the DC Foundation on that. And we had to have matching grants plus in-kind labor, and we only got a proportion as Dawn said, equal enough to get the project done.
And I think that usually helps in a grant, if you
In-kind.
match the funds or in kind, if you can.
Right, that's the reason that I don't wanna write it unless I have some kind of, you know what I mean? I don't wanna write it and then they give me a huge chunk of this foundation money and then I'm still up in the air on what we're even doing, you
I
know?
think you gotta use it within 1 year, don't you,
Yeah.
Joe?
18 months.
18 months?
So, yeah, I mean, that's why I'm saying, you know, if we can't get something decided, you know, in the next, like, tonight, pretty much, then it's probably looking at next year, before we can get grant money. That doesn't necessarily mean that we can't, start next year if we get private donation and with city and county, we can get started with that money and go get grant money the following year to finish up, but, like I said, it's,
Is it 21 when we're done with the field, they got 2 more years.
June of 2021's first, I believe.
And it's in June, July, I'm not sure.
yeah, it's like July of 21.
June or July, so first. As for Babe Ruth organizations, nationally, I couldn't give you that number unless I researched it, but I can tell you Babe Ruth is prevalent in Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, and the Babe Ruth 13-year-old national tournament was held in Missouri this year, in Charleston, Missouri. Ottumwa hosted the 13s and the 15-year-olds, and there weren't enough. That they were going to host 14s as well, but there were no 14s from this area. Last year, after our season started, someone from Fairfield contacted me who used to play with Ottumwa, but Ottumwa raised the price on them from $200 to $300 per team, which covers field maintenance, covers umpire fees. I mean, so it's not, real out of line, I didn't think, but Fairfield didn't want to pay that. They contacted me after our season started, wanted to bring a team here to play or 2. And the way Babe Ruth rules read is if your community doesn't offer Babe Ruth, and Fairfield doesn't have a field either right now, that you can go to the next adjacent community or through 2 counties or whatever it takes to find a program if you want to play. And that's individual sport teams.
Is it fair to say there's going to be less and less Babe Ruth programs?
Babe Ruth is still pretty prevalent in this area. Now, USSSA teams are allowed to pay a Babe Ruth charter, play Babe Ruth games, and then enter a Babe Ruth tournament, national tournament. So long as they have a certain amount of games played, they're allowed to do that. If we were putting up a field anywhere, I would suggest putting in more than 1 set of base pegs. I would put it up at, I'd run 50-70, I'd run the 90-60 that we have. Those things are I mean, important if you're gonna have another venue aside from just Babe Ruth High School. Suppose you're gonna host something, well.
If you do Little League or softball, I mean, you're gonna have 4 or 5 base patterns, so you're basically gonna have a red clay or whatever infield, you won't be able to have grass infield.
Well, you can have a grass infield, but you're gonna need,
It's not gonna be
you're gonna need a wide
Yeah.
enough base path to accommodate for that.
You can
Yes.
do grass. And to go back to Babe Ruth, I mean, I don't really have any care or loyalty to Babe Ruth or any league, I really don't. I mean, it might be something totally different 10 years from now, it could be USSSA League, that's what they do in Des Moines, bigger towns, I mean, they do trip leagues. It can be Cal Ripken League, it can be Babe Ruth 20 years from now. There'll be a league that needs to serve that age group. So whether it's Babe Ruth or it's somebody else, or it's Davis County baseball, some communities just do, Pella does just Pella youth baseball, but there's always gonna be a need. Whether it's Babe Ruth or not, how many teams there are, there's gonna be teams from there that are gonna wanna play. It's tournaments and all that, there's always gonna be a need for that. And really anymore, Davis County is kind of missing out on the travel dollars, because the travel dollars are big in terms of.
And that was the thing that I brought to the board last year, was the fact that we could work something out with someone. And, we had 5 teams this year. So, we played each other each 3 times. Well, we could play each other twice and go to someone and play each one of their teams, or have them come here, or vice versa. There's no rules against that. That would give, us fresh meat, same difference. I mean, it would draw people in from out of town to, play at our facility. Not necessarily travel ball, but, you've got somebody traveling 19 miles to play ball, or vice versa. But that was just an idea that we had, and then, like I said, Fairfield contacted us and wanted to bring 1 or 2 teams too, but we had already started our season, so it was too late. So basically, Fairfield had 2 teams that didn't play ball last year because they didn't contact us early enough, and they didn't want to pay $300 a team to take their teams to a tournament. So
could the Fairfield teams come over here and be part of our program?
they could. Yes, they could.
So if you had a big tournament like that, who gets the money? Concessions?
It's gonna have to get worked out in this agreement, but I mean, I would think that for a Babe Ruth tournament, and I've already talked to Dan about it. I mean, he knows that Babe Ruth can't survive without concession money. So there's gotta be concession money that goes to Babe Ruth for, in that season. And I would think tournaments, stuff like that, I mean, and also those tournaments have, like registration fees too, and that's kind of where some of the big money comes in. I've paid, almost embarrassed to say, I paid $550 for a team enter every weekend tournament.
So
So,
I think, here's how I would see it, is if Babe Ruth was hosting a tournament, they needed to also use the high school field for that tournament. We'd probably figure out some kind of a fee that would help pay for maintenance to keep that, I think, I don't know, $100 whatever that number would be. Something along those lines, and then, so whatever they brought in would be the same, and then vice versa. If the school district needed that field or whatever, then, there'd be some type of reciprocation like that as well. The district, as far, I think what we would be interested in doing would be having, ideally, if Babe Ruth or whoever could cover the maintenance of that field and that ground, whatever that is, that solves a bit of a maintenance challenge for us as a school district. So, we would just figure that out in the agreement, however that works.
We pretty much do that.
Right, but we do it, you guys do it.
I mean, you guys know sometimes.
Right, it's,
I know he'll, get out there and throw his,
surface.
surface.
So,
I still don't get that.
But anyway, I think we've got a good relationship with Babe Ruth right now, the school district does. It's just like these guys said, that field just cannot, one field cannot take that level of usage. That's the biggest issue. And if we could defray that a bit, that would be tremendously helpful.
And you could help the council consider a letter. I don't think all of them had access to that letter.
Yeah, sorry, I should have brought more copies, but I'd be happy to mail it to whomever I need to mail it to you, Andy.
I didn't see any of that. Several of the council.
I got an email. You said, maybe I got that from you.
Yeah, I sent it to you. I didn't know who else to send it to.
So what's your turnkey number on this field?
Again, it's, it's a quote from Michelle, and she, to get the field, lit and everything, but again, it's multiple phase, kind of have an idea of 100,000 for the first year, pretty much 100,000 for the second year. For the lights are 100,000. You could get fencing and
Lights ain't 100,000.
So,
but she has. I don't know. The more?
No.
Well,
I'm pretty sure they lit the American League field.
I mean, if you call Musco, maybe.
Yeah, I believe whoever did the American League field, they got some kind of grant and had to stay there for so long. But American League is joining with its own Little League now. There's only gonna be one Little League in something like that beginning of next year. But I'm pretty sure it was open to allow us to get the lights on.
yeah. And it's probably important to realize too, like the lights that are at the current field, I don't think you could put those lights up today. I don't think they meet the code and everything. I don't know that.
Well, I know
Yes, I know more about that than I
the
do.
school district would not be able to do that as a school district. We would not be able to take and transplant those poles just because once we move them, now we have to meet code. And school district building code there's a lot higher threshold of that. And that's why school districts get charged so much more, all those different requirements that we have versus a private entity. I don't like it any more than anybody else does. But anyway, one thing that I would like to make sure that if we do go down this road and the school district's one part, I would want to make sure, some of the things that I would want to make sure of is that whatever we do so it matches the other part of the facility. So it looks like one nice big facility. For example, we intend to put in black fencing because it looks nicer. And that's one of the things that we would ask the Babe Ruth or the city, whatever entity does, is that we put in a field that looks nice. It doesn't have to be the same level of standard. And an example I would use is Oskaloosa has a really nice field that the senior kids play on, and then the junior kids play on. A nice field, but it's not to the same grade quality. It still looks nice, and it looks like a nice facility because of that. And so I don't know that they have to do Musco lights, as far as I'm concerned either. But we would like those lights to look like they look nice out there, and just a facility would be proud of. So that would be the kinds of things that I'd like to work with. We also talked about how, this doesn't have to be all in one shot. It could be maybe we don't do lights for a few first couple of years or what have you. And if there's a night game, well, we'll work through that. If there's a night games that we have to play some Babe Ruth games while we're waiting on, more funding to come for lights, well, we can figure that out too, As long as we know that we're progressing towards a facility that will help defray the usage off of one, the school will figure it out. We'll work together, whatever that takes. Because I can appreciate from a budget standpoint the challenges that you all are facing. I get it completely, and knowing that the challenges that you're facing with the electric problems that we had, and just recently I knew we had some sewer challenges, street problems. I get it. So it's not like you can write a check for this whole thing in one night, right? So completely understand that. So the school district stands ready to figure this thing out, and maybe it's a, 2 or 3 or 4 year deal of how we get to the level what we'd like to get to eventually, and just, work on that, figure that out together. Be a great win for our community.
And again, I don't want to give there an illusion that the fair board is going to give us any more time. I've asked them to give us more time. They can tell us to stick. And we're looking at 1.5 years from last week. Essentially. I mean,
I was just gonna ask, what are the school district's thoughts on that 50-acre parcel being annexed and becoming part of the city?
I don't know if we've ever talked about that, Matt. I don't know if it's, you can maybe tell me if there's an issue with that I would be concerned about, but I don't know that I'm concerned about it. If we could have bought that and it was in the city's limits, we would have bought it then. So, pretty close. I'm not sure exactly where the border is.
It's
Right on the fairgrounds.
Yeah,
The fairgrounds is in the way.
yeah.
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 and on the cost part too, I mean, maybe Michelle was just trying to give us, you wouldn't want to give somebody some numbers and then they'd be well low. I think I would rather have a number where we feel like this is more realistic, and maybe if it's cheaper, it's cheaper. But I think she was probably trying to not, you wouldn't want to say, well, we can build a still for $150,000. It's not $150,000. A lot of effort, and we're, a year or two down the road, where what we do, we have to have more money to finish something.
Dan, is there room for 4 fields out there or just 3?
There's room for 3 adjacent, right next to each other like that. If you wanted a third field, I would propose it to be on the other side of that little pond, not the big one, but just in that little corner piece. That would be, I think that'd be a really nice place for a smaller, like a little league field or a softball field. But the way it's laid out there, 3 is what it's, 2 baseball sized fields and a softball sized field. It's really fit.
Would that be a potential spot to put a city soccer field if the city wants to look into something soccer or something like that? Might be an option for the school.
There's that property where that baseball field would go, is if you looked at it and thought about maybe not putting an outfield fence in and just put a temporary fence in, which, oh, by the way, we got part of one with softball, right? That could be a soccer field, and that's whatever. There's room out there is what I'm getting at.
I just remember you were talking about maybe, ideas and stuff out of Fisher, and maybe having soccer stuff out there, and maybe it was.
Sand volleyball.
Yeah, I mean, there could be some potential out there.
Is the school gonna move any like the football practices and stuff like that out there? I mean, are they gonna try to get away from having so much stuff down here on that piece of grass by the mutual center?
We talked about that a little bit, but I also started thinking about busing and the kids driving, and I'd like to I think once we see the softball field move out, we'll probably practice more like what we're used to. But that's just me speaking out loud. So Karen, please don't get it right in the chest. That's just me just talking.
Well, I'm thinking about maybe some less traffic and less people down there on that road by the middle school and the elementary school, as far as trying to put a little.
It's busy down there.
Give everybody a breath down there.
Yeah, I see us moving. I need to talk to Kent, and we haven't really talked a whole lot about this. But I see once we gain that softball field back and can put more turf in, we'll have more room for that where we practice traditionally. So that's what I see anyway. You guys busy down there?
I mean, as far as the mutual center activities, I mean, I suppose we could have them out there on the ball field.
Yeah. That'd be a great place for flag football and stuff like that.
Other than down there.
You can get a cup of hot chocolate when it's 40 below watching soccer.
Oh, what's everybody's?
I think there's possibility, but I'm personally a little concerned about it being sort of piecemeal. What I'd like to see is, I'd like to see a whole complex out there with things that are integrated, and we're bringing folks in. I'd like to see it annexed. I'd like to see, I think if we're putting money into something, it ought to be in the city. I think it could be really nice, outside of the whole, just for Babe Ruth, that you could put a baseball field in there, you could put some trails in there.
I think a 10 or 15 year plan would kind of be, I don't know if you can go out that far, it'd be kind of nice to look at and see what the future, I mean, in 10 or 15 years, what do you foresee that being like?
I'd like to
The West Sports coming, well, in 10 years, what do you see it adding, or, what do you see it looking like in 10 years?
Sure. Well, I see a nice trail system, linked indoor trail system. I see some more playground equipment for kids while they're out there, and more of a park-like atmosphere than just 2 baseball fields. And being a multi-use type facility. We only limit ourselves by our imagination there, and we have an old drawing that shows there's 4 fields that are clustered. Maybe that's what you guys are thinking of. But it was a concept drawing is all it was, and it had a trail that went around it. We could have one heck of a cross-country course out there by cooperating with Fair Board. Nice little area for that. I can see it be nice to have to where folks could just drive in there and have a nice Sunday afternoon and do whatever, if the ball field's open. Don't get me wrong, I can't speak for the Babe Ruth. I don't know that we would want kids running around on our fields all the time, but we'd have to manage that, figure out how to manage that, which I think we could. I'd love to see people parked out there with their families, having a good time with them. Which I think Lake Fisher does that too, so I understand the dilemma you guys are facing.
I know all the major fields in the Tumble Midwest, National, and American, they all have one field that they leave open all the time for the public. And they lock up like the major league field on all the little league facilities. But they always have that one field there because you can drive down Williams Street any night of the week in summer, and there are 10 or 20 kids out there playing baseball on that field every time. Yeah, I could get 10 kids to practice a lot of nights here, so but.
Michelle had it on the third phase, she had $50,000 for a playground set up and everything. I didn't bring that up, honestly, I was just like, that's maybe for another day, but that would be the thought, even the thought with this project originally of, year 1 field, year 2 lights, year 3 playground equipment, and and you see that a lot of the other community fields. There's always fantastic. You see the playground equipment a lot of these.
So Joe, let's just say hypothetically speaking, it's 200,000. What do you want from the city?
If I could get, and again, it's working numbers, if I could get 40 from the DC Foundation, I can get 30 from you, 30 from the county. That, again, I don't know, I think there's a good chance that there's a private, there's a business in town that may give us some money. How much money they give us, I think if you look at what they've given some other entities in town, I think it would be a fair enough amount that, I guess I don't want to say that they might get us over the hump after that, but it might be close. I can't speak for that business or.
30,000 a year or 30,000 months?
Well, depends on how much that business gets. Kind of depends on, how much they give. And again, the idea there would be, there would be a naming right situation and something that we would have to work through there and to work with the school. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of I'm kind of giving Dan this information. I just got this today, so.
City employees will be riding brooms.
Have you approached SIEC and the phone company with this also?
Not yet. I know there've been some people that have reached out. I think there's been some people that reached out to Greg, out to REC, Proctor. And I haven't got an update on that as far as helping with the lights and stuff like that. So, that would definitely, as this project would go forward, that would definitely be a piece of this, we would try and get as much done, whether through local means, as we possibly could.
Can I ask Joe a question? If you get a field built out there minus lights by the end of 2021, can you guys live with that for 1 year?
Yeah,
I mean, because here's my point. I think if what you folks who are making the decisions, if you do a good job on the initial phase of this complex, community is going to get behind you with the money to finish it the right way. Just like we did this building.
And again, year two, there would be Davis County Foundation funds available. I guarantee those funds, but typically speaking, if you look at past records, you're looking at projects that when they really benefit the community, that foundation typically comes through with a significant.
And that could be a recurring thing too, because the trail is going to be finished with money we already have. We may have to ask for a little bit this year, but going forward, if you could get 40 from the foundation for 3 or 4 years, that'd knock a big hole in what we need to do.
You don't want to do more trails on?
Well, yes, but we're not gonna ask for the money until we get the design.
I got some big ideas for you.
We're
Yeah,
the
we have.
last phase is coming up, right?
Yeah.
For what's designed.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you're talking 200 instead of the 400 we heard before, with a lot of the help you're considering, I think it's doable.
In answer to your question, yes, the league could survive without lights for a year. That means we would have to play more games.
That'd be our minimum goal, I would think.
Right. That means we would have to play more games throughout the week because we wouldn't be able to double header nights. Because we have lights right now, but we wouldn't be sharing a field, with the high school having to get off so they could play, so.
Yeah.
So yes, we could play, a game every night of the week if we had to.
The drawback to that would be is, we all know the high school couldn't utilize it very much if it didn't have lights.
Right, well, the high school's gonna have another field already.
Yeah, I know, but
Get some of that portable generator power.
Yeah, there you go.
Christmas tree lights with white lights, you
You can buy them cheap at auction.
run them on one generator.
They're real cheap at auction.
Right, they just found out. High school. Right, yeah.
I'm just one. I can see a way to support 30,000. I think there's some things we have to look at. We have to look at the county at least matching it. There's some questions I think we have to have worked out in terms of city benefit. Some of the things we talked about tonight, we have to work through what it's going to look like overall. But I think, I don't know what you need for purposes of improving the chances of the grant, but me personally, I wouldn't be ready to sign on the dotted line tonight, but I think there's a path that I could see to that.
Would I be able to get like a letter of support, like I got with the county? I'm not signing it. We're out of the school complex yet. I don't know who else you could get one from, because there's too many unanswered questions for me out there to support that right now.
And again, would we be able to get, like Dan was saying, a group together, and it doesn't have to be, next week or, but get that group together and put an agreement together and then present that to the council.
I mean, if you're open to the field possibly being somewhere else through the grant, if that's how it ends up at the end, I can support that, but I can't support it 100% being out there right now. Because there's just too many unanswered questions for what we owe the people for using their money for.
I didn't see the letter from the county, so I don't know what it said.
Yeah, I don't know if Dan can forward that to you.
Was it just there?
It's basically just a letter of support. It didn't have any dollar amount. It basically just said that they would support helping somehow with the ball field and that they was gonna use the rural basic funds, which is money they put aside that only comes from the people in the county. Nobody, it's not money from anybody in the city.
Well, I'm with Matt, it's, I just think it's time we do something, we need to move. The complex to me is the right way to go. Keeping it together so that we can get the best bang for what we're building. So I think, this coming up with $30,000, we can figure something out. That's where I'm at.
You're kind of, excuse me, I'm not, is this something that can be voted upon through the council, or is this, I don't know where we go from there. Is this something that the council brings up to vote on, or is that something else?
Mayor, again,
Everybody's got the letters.
the council decision there, but I would think you would need to take a vote on it.
We can't.
No, I'm not, I think the question was, I think the question was, obviously they can't right now, but you're saying at some point.
We can at some point, we can't tonight.
No.
And that's fine, I get it. I guess I'm just trying to get this grant tomorrow, or this next week, and that's fine. If we don't go for it this year,
I think you ought to go ahead and try to get the grant this year.
When do we know if we get the grant?
that's pretty soon, like in December, 1st of January. I think they meet in December.
I think it's a little earlier than that, Joe.
Yeah, it might be.
They're like,
Shaking your hand like.
Maybe
Yeah.
December.
10th of December, you should know.
Part of December to award this grant.
Yeah, fine. I guess we know. First part of December.
I think,
Yeah,
I think you ought to go for the grant, absolutely.
I do too.
And we can work out what concerns we have. Regardless, we gotta get a big deal. I think you'd be crazy not to.
My opinion, given the proper agreement with the school system and contributions with the county and the other entities you've talked about, it's a doable.
How much do we get from the hotel motel tax per year approximately?
Sandy would know.
30,000.
Yes.
So I'll go for the grant. I'm happy to do that. If you guys got enough support here, I'll go for it and listen, tell me no or yes, I guess. And then if I get it, then I can certainly come back to you guys and say, hey, listen, I got a bucket of money here.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't necessarily, I think the work between the city, the county, the school, and Babe Ruth, I don't think that necessarily has to wait to hear back from the grant. I think that there's ground we can cover. I'd really like to see what a whole complex out there could look like and what that could turn into in terms of revenue coming into the state. You know, soccer tournaments, baseball tournaments, youth track, cross country, all that stuff out there in general, what that could bring into the city, I think.
Yeah, I'm willing to do whatever you all need me to do, so. Well, other than do all the work. Yeah, share a little bit.
No, you heard him right the first time.
We have a committee that's supposed to get together sometime. I don't know when. Getting dates set up that matches everybody's schedule is a challenge.
Well, I think the November 14th meeting we're having right now.
Oh, is it?
I think so.
I think there was some wires got crossed. Which we can have another one on the 14th, I mean, I don't. For this, talk about some on the 7th, or. I suppose it really don't do much good to talk about it anymore till you find out if you're getting money. That's fair. I mean, I guess in the meantime, you can see what you can, what the county's willing to do, or other private entities as far as that goes, because.
Mr. Mayor, do you have any concerns specifically for the school that you'd like me to research for you or get back to you on, or I take it?
I just want how it's gonna, I wanna know what the plan's gonna look like, the agreement's gonna look like, and how all that's gonna be set up.
Okay.
Cause I don't want this, yeah, we gave you 60,000, and yeah, we said this is how it's gonna be, and then after it's like, whoa, no, that's not how it is. Cause right now Babe Ruth has all the concessions for baseball, and the Optimus Club has all the concessions for softball. In my opinion, for them two organizations to maintain their function, they have to maintain that.
Yeah.
And the way I understand it is the schools want to dip into the concession stand money, and them organizations can't function without it.
Yeah.
And well, I'm not interested in giving money to Babe Ruth to build a new field and then have to support it also later if there's an avenue that they can go support themselves. Because the school, it doesn't matter if the school gets tax money the same as we do. If they can function now without concessions, they can function down the road without concessions. And, why should we raise taxes for the city to help support something that got taken away from somebody through another tax paid in?
Sure, so let me dispel a rumor, all right?
Okay.
There is no desire of the school district to take over concessions the way that it currently is done. Now, we'd have to do it a little bit differently because it's a shared concession.
And I understand that, and I think between the school and them organizations and everybody, that can be worked out.
Yeah, absolutely, so there's.
But I think them two organizations need to between the two of them, need to still have 100% in concessions.
Yeah, there's no desire to do, essentially do anything different than what we are currently doing. We just had to figure out how to operate out of one concession stand and support both Optimist currently and Babe Ruth currently. And now the only thing I would say is if we're going to continue this, we would want that Babe Ruth field to be on that property. We're going to continue concessions in that same fashion.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
That makes sense. So please, if you hear anybody bringing that up as a rumor, that's false. I'm telling you. And that's never been discussed. It's been what folks believe. Well, I wish they would just call me and ask, because I could dispel that pretty quick. So we have no desire to do that. We know that Babe Ruth needs, the district, the school district's baseball program is functioning very well with Babe Ruth. We like Babe Ruth. you know, as a whole, especially when we have a good relationship like we do. So if we were to take on, you know, the other rumor is the school wants to get rid of Babe Ruth and start middle school baseball. Well, why would we want to encumber another expenditure that we don't have right now when it's working, right? Why would we do that? So let me dispel that rumor too. We are very interested in being supportive of the Babe Ruth program and helping the Babe Ruth be successful. And because it benefits us, we have more kids that are able to play in Babe Ruth than they can in a school 7th and 8th grade system. We have kids that don't play high school ball that choose to play Babe Ruth. That's great. More kids are involved in the youth activity. That's terrific. We believe in that kind of thing. And anyway, I know we can figure that one out, Mr. Mayor. That's not an issue.
I know our concessions manager has spoken with their concessions manager, and I'm pretty sure we can also work, you know, together with them and get that worked out.
The other thing I want to make sure that the public needs to understand is that activities programs in a school district are not funded in the traditional sense like the rest of our budget is. It has to be raised through funds. It's not something we tax for. We must fundraise for all of our programs to keep our programs alive. So there's a misconception out there with that. And I wouldn't expect anybody to know that. Oh goodness, it's Don shaking his head, thank you. But we have to fund our own programs. So
the taxpayers still fund the facilities.
They do.
They play.
You're right, absolutely correct. Yeah. But as far as the operations goes, the day-to-day stuff, no. Maintenance, yes, but not like to pay for equipment and that kind of thing. So it takes a little bit. So we take it out of hide somewhere else in our activities programs to fund baseball and softball right now because we don't run concessions for those two programs. And we're thankful for the Optimist because they do a lot for the school. We're thankful for Babe Ruth because Babe Ruth develops kids. It's good stuff.
Would there be a representative that would maybe want to, you know, as we walk through this agreement, kind of try and get something figured out between the city and the county and the league and school? I mean, is there somebody that might specific want to be on that group?
We put a committee together at the last meeting. There's Scott Barron and Scott Spurgeon on our side.
Okay.
And Andy, if
He wasn't here, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, we put together a committee for our side of it to talk.
And who was that again? Sorry.
Darren, Scott, and Scott Spurgeon.
Well, listen, all I can do is I'll go ahead and apply for that grant and whatever we can get with it. And at that point, maybe we try and get together and maybe we try and work out an agreement that you guys can take a look at and make a decision on.
And I'd be interested again, if you have any specifics that you're concerned about from that committee, if you could get those to me as soon as possible, that I could research whatever I need to research for you. Rather than put something together and say, no, I don't like that. If you can help me build it, that would be great.
You probably ought to have a brainstorming session and then kind of put everything together, then have another session to look over.
I'd love to do that.
That's why I kind of thought we had that 14th set up.
Okay.
November 14th. We had at the fire station, 6 o'clock.
I might have been there by myself.
It's your turn to bring food.
Joe? So do you.
I thought Earl was doing prime rib.
That's what I thought the donuts. I thought Mater was gonna bring prime rib.
I got a couple bags of beef jerky.
We got one more right than prime rib. Ruin the good prime rib. So any other people from your organizations or county or whoever you're talking to, that would be a place to get everybody
14th,
together
6
on that.
o'clock.
6 o'clock at the fire station on the November 14th. Third. November 3rd. Does anybody else have any input or communication or discussion on the ball field? Thoughts, ideas? We'll end the work session. Now we got a closed session. Closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 21.51I to evaluate the professional competency of an individual whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge is being considered when necessary to prevent needless and